And good day to you, and welcome to In the Know with Willard Shepard, Willard Shepard Law and Media. And you know, we are always looking for people here in our community who are from our community, who have risen to do great things and serve our community. And we certainly have one of those with us today. We're going to say our Clerk of Court and Comptroller from Miami-Dade County. There he is, Mr. Juan Fernandez-Barquin. Thank you so much for being with us. And first of all, big picture, many people don't have an idea, outside of those of us in the legal community, exactly what you do and exactly what your responsibilities are. So tell us.
Yes. Well, first, thank you so much, Willard, for this opportunity. It's fantastic to be here, and I would watch you when you're on the news. So it's an honor to be here with you. So the Clerk of the Court and Comptroller, many different functions. All right. Obviously, custodian of records for civil cases and criminal cases. That's the easy stuff. That's what everyone can think of, right? In addition to that, we administer the parking tickets and traffic tickets. We don't give them out. A lot of people think that we give them out, but we just accept payment for them. And then we also we remit those funds either to the state, we keep a portion of them, or in the case of the parking tickets, we remit a portion to the cities that issued the tickets. Mm-hmm. We also do jury duty, which also a lot of people have told me that they see my name on there, and my wife thinks that AI somehow broke into my phone and that the jury duty immediately sent out jury notifications to all my friends, because it seemed like everyone was calling me because they were called for it. But we do jury duty. And then on the county side, that's on the court side. On the county side, the big thing that we do is clerk of the board for county commission. We have the clerk of the board there in every meeting, in every committee meeting. They're taking notes on who voted how, who was present, things of that nature. In addition to that, we also administer the value adjustment board. So if you appeal your property taxes, my office is in charge of coordinating the appellate hearing with the property owner, a representative from the property appraiser's office, and so on. Another thing on the county side is the zoning fines. Mm-hmm. My office also receives payment for county zoning violations. We have about 4 or 5 dedicated individuals. We also do marriage licenses. And then also we're in charge of the public records. So deeds, mortgages, things of that nature, judgments, my office processes all those. So yeah,
I thought I was the expert in Florida Statute 119.01, but I will transmit that over to you.
Oh, 119, yeah. The public records exemptions. That's quite a statute, and that's something that I have to become familiar with.
There you go. Well, I will tell you the number one item that's used by government entities in our state to exempt something for public records. And big picture, our public records law here in Florida, we are very fortunate as residents of this state. We have one of the widest ranging and widest encompassing public records statutes of any in the country. And as a matter of fact, the big thing it basically says is everything is public, but... Yeah. And the number one but is 119.071, Section 2C. That would be agency investigation. And what that actually means is that the police department or law enforcement agency is doing or conducting an investigation. And they don't want it interfered with. And that is probably 80% of the time why something is exempt in the state. So it's great that we live here. Many states don't have that, and people may not have an idea about what's going on within their government, which is something I know you're very, it's an important matter to you to be open and public and transparent with your responsibilities.
Absolutely, and the transparency and accountability is something that once a finance department comes over to my office beginning January 7th, 2025, the transparency and accountability is a huge deal for me. It's the cornerstone of what I want that comptrolling function to be. I mean, technically right now I am the comptroller, but I don't have the finance department underneath me. But January 7th, 2025, that finance department will be migrating over, hopefully sooner, but at the very least then.
Take me on your journey, how we talked about you going to school at Belen and you came here, and that we're FIU people, we're celebrating, with that. And you ended up at school at American in D.C., and then you decided to go serve our state legislature. and then you were appointed by the governor. Before we go any further, we both, want to be historians for our community. We need to honor Mr. Rubin for his long service
Absolutely.
in the job before you.
And that is something that I feel like I'm standing on the shoulder of a giant. When I speak of Harvey Rubin and his legacy, he served this community for over 30 years. 30 years as clerk. A lot of people don't know that he was a county commissioner for 20 years before that. And before that, I believe it was 12 years as mayor of North Bay Village. So, I mean, the man was a giant. I have huge shoes to fill, and I'm I'm honored to stand on his shoulders and try and enhance and bring the office to another level. I'm a big football fan, and I've joked around with my family that I feel like the coach who came after Don Shula, that it's such a legacy to try and fulfill and to try and it's a tough act to follow. But it's a blessing, and he has a great team. So I'm incredibly happy and satisfied with everyone there and the Clerk family as a whole. So I can't ask for anything more. And I was semi-athletic when I was younger, and I love baseball also, and I would never get a chance.
You were an athlete, period.
Yeah,
you can
thank
go ahead
you.
and take credit.
But there was no chance of me ever playing for the New York Yankees, so this is the closest thing I have is to playing for the New York Yankees. Is playing for the Miami-Dade County Clerk and Comptroller office, and it's an honor to be there.
Tell me what prompted you, or when you decided that you wanted to go into this type of public service. You had spent time at the public defender in Palm Beach County.
Yes, sir.
And then you were in private practice, but then you decided to run for office and held that seat for a significant time period. Why did you decide to go do that? I know it was a couple of years ago, but with our political environment that exists today, many people would ask why you would inject yourself into that.
So first, my dedication to the public and to community service started when I was in high school at Belen. I was very active in Key Club, which was a community service organization. And then that just stuck out in my mind, and that was always something that was an undercurrent. In FIU, I was also active in the community, doing community service projects, working for different organizations, and then went to law school at American. And I met Rory Stein at the Miami Public Defender's office, and I wanted to be a trial attorney, but I wasn't sure like in which direction to go. I met him. I met several individuals from Catherine Fernandez-Rundle's office to be an assistant state attorney potentially, but they had a hiring freeze. This was in 2008, and I felt like that area, either being a public defender, an assistant public defender, or an assistant state attorney, was a perfect intersection between community service and also doing something that I really enjoyed, advocating, right? But ultimately, being an assistant public defender, I felt that's a real last line of defense. And that is really, really, really a critical position. That's like playing safety in football. Like you are the last line there between the opposing member on the football team with the football and the end zone at your back. So I got an offer from the Palm Beach County Public Defender's office. This was in 2008 during the financial crisis, and there was a hiring freeze in multiple different offices, but they were the first to give me an offer. And I had been there a couple of times, and I really enjoyed the office, really liked the people. And I went over there, and I was there for 4.5 years, got a lot of trials underneath my belt, helped a lot of individuals. And then I came back down here, and I started doing civil. And civil's great. I enjoyed civil, but I really feel like helping individuals in the criminal defense atmosphere in that arena really helps people. I mean, that you really see the change, and you can really interact with clients. And then in 2017, I had thought about running for the state legislature because it's great to help people on a one-on-one basis as an attorney, but to be able to make a change in policy, that's where you can really help people. Mm-hmm. That's really where you can make an impact. So the opportunity presented itself. I was living in Kendale Lakes at the time. The Lieutenant Governor, Jeanette Nunez, was terming out, and I figured if I'm going to do it, I have to do it now. I don't want to wait another 8 years. For someone else who runs and gets four terms and reaches their term limits. I want to do it now, and I did it. And it was a 4-way primary. It was very tough, but I got elected, and then served 5 years in the House until this opportunity presented itself. That and God rest his soul, Harvey Reuven passed away, and that opportunity presented itself. And I really thought about it. I prayed on it. I spoke to my wife about it. And she said to me when I went over the pros and cons with her, she said, I think you made up your mind. And I thought about it. And then I remember going back on the website and thinking about all the things that I would change on the website to try and make it easier. And I decided, you know what, this is something I want to pursue. This is something I want to try and go after. And yeah, the governor appointed me, and I'm here 8 months
now
later.
You're in. Good. What do you say to people about government? And it's in your job, fortunately, you have the ability to have directives and policies. I always say from, my military duty and the time and the background, hey, you educate yourself. You come up with a plan, one that emphasizes all of your strengths. You empower people and give them the tools and resources they need to, and then you execute it. And I think that that's something that really, makes a successful organization. How have you embraced this in terms of what your directives are? Your Green Light Initiative, there were a lot of people that loved what you did several months ago. So tell me about your philosophy for serving the public, where people might, like you said, see your name, but not recognize what it is that you are actually doing in terms of service for the community.
Well, my overall philosophy when it comes to leading is lead by example and treat everyone the same. You treat the janitors the same way that you treat an executive president, vice president, and also never ask someone to do something you wouldn't do yourself. So those are all things that coming into this role, I really thought about. I analyzed the low-hanging fruit that would be easy things to work on. Operation Greenlight, that's where we waive the collection fees and late fees from individuals with outstanding traffic tickets and parking tickets. I had heard about this event years ago, and I thought, well, you know what? That's one of the things. That's an immediate impact that we can do. So we did that. We saved residents over $250,000 in late fees and collection fees. We also helped about over 1,500 individuals become reinstatement eligible for their driver's licenses. Something else that was an easy, what I would say again, low-hanging fruit, extending the hours in 2 clerks locations. The reality is that right now in South Florida, the cost of living is outrageous. So a lot of people work long hours, sometimes 2 jobs. So one of the things that we did was that we extended the hours for our offices in 2 locations. The Caleb Center, 5400 Northwest 22nd Avenue, and then the other one at the South Dade Justice Center off of the Turnpike in Southwest 211th Street. And I'm very proud to say that in that time, in those after hours on Thursdays and Saturdays, since August, so over the last 6 months, we've collected over $50,000 in parking tickets and traffic tickets. So people use it. People are going in there. People are paying in person or getting on payment plans. We also have a payment plan that we initiated online, free of charge. And last time I checked, this was weeks ago, it was over 2,000 individuals had registered for it without us advertising it. So it's just offering these different ways, different opportunities, different avenues for our residents, and to make them aware that these things exist. And that's just something I'm a big fan that government. My philosophy is that government's a monopoly. We have a monopoly on all these services, right? But if we have a monopoly, we also have to make sure that we offer these services efficiently, diligently, and very easily for everyone to access. And that's been also my philosophy on this, is just trying to make things easier, accepting technology, seeing how technology can work for us to help our residents.
I was talking to you before about a technology platform that I saw that I'm very impressed with, that some of our public defenders' offices are using now, and I want you to take a look at. Tell me about the importance of technology. I mean, obviously, there's nothing good about a pandemic, but I think that something that we learned from the pandemic, especially in the areas of court administration, I've seen some studies that the number of people participating in jury service remotely, responding to jury summonses remotely, showing up as witnesses for depositions remotely, significantly higher than in person. How do we seize upon this to make sure that, in essence, you don't have to drive down to your office anymore. We can actually service our community better with these type of tech platforms.
So I think jury duty, you just touched on something. Jury duty is probably the mechanism that my office interacts with the public the most. We instituted a system. I think it's called Avenue Q, or Avenue is the name of it. And what it is basically it's a registration system. So you get your jury summons in the mail, and there's a link on it, and it says register here. So you register, you answer some questions, and it will say, well, in 3 weeks we will let you know if you should come in or not. And then if you do come in, that system may either tell you, if you're going to the civil courthouse, come to the second floor, or direct reporting straight to the courtroom. Okay. The other thing is that if it's a huge panel, let's say a lot of people aren't aware of this, but tobacco litigation cases, you're an attorney, you understand this. A tobacco litigation case, you're going to have to get at least 300 jurors, okay, just to ask them questions. With this technology, you don't have to get 300 jurors now and have them sit there all week and have them lose hours and hours and hours of work. What you can do is stack them and have 50 in the morning on one day, 50 in the afternoon on another day, and basically use technology to benefit everybody. And that way, you're also reducing the risk of contaminating the jury, of spoiling the jury, in the sense of someone says something and all 300 people hear about it, and then you have to start over again. But they're able to basically pick these jurors on these smaller scales. So I think when it comes to technology, the system we've implemented with the jurors is phenomenal. And I personally cannot take credit for that. That was my immediate predecessor, Luis Montaldo, who was the interim clerk, who instituted it. But I saw that, and I want to try and figure out. The next thing I want to add on that, actually, and I was just talking to someone this morning, is a customer evaluation, like a customer service feedback on the jury service, because I want to know how people are, what suggestions they have, if there's anything that we can improve upon on that end. But there's a lot. There's always something to do, and I just want to make sure that we run as efficiently as possible.
What are your thoughts in terms of bringing, as being part of the state legislature and having to do those types of things versus being able to actually serve the residents directly? I think many times, and I'll just use this as an example, a tragedy with one of my clients, about both of them, a young man here, college student in an Uber, who got out of the Uber, had a disagreement with the driver about the drop-off location, canceled the ride. The driver got out, followed him, shot him, and the young man died. And wonderful family, never been in trouble, all of those types of things. We went to the state legislature to have a rideshare, in every rideshare, camera, which I think would protect the drivers, protect, give law enforcement information, protect the riders, protect everybody. But this legislative session, the state representative who wanted to introduce it, who is her state representative, the mother, said, hey, look, I don't have the votes. And to us, and I had to explain to her, some of the politics behind this, that many people think that government is not working for them, that it doesn't work for them. And they may not have the association to be able to say, well, that's a legislative thing versus your responsibilities, which are more administrative functions directly with the taxpayers. How do you get that message across and make sure that people believe? I tell people all the time when I'm out in public with our elected officials that our local officials will be able to keep faith in our government. Not what's happening in Washington, and unfortunately, maybe not to a lesser degree, what's happening in Tallahassee.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm sorry to hear that story. I mean, it's incredibly tragic. But it's really about informing voters. That's really what it comes down to, is that the difference between policy decisions, which the legislators make, as opposed to administrative and ministerial functions, which is what this job entails. I make sure that the trains run on time, is my joke in the office, because I'm not determining what we do with the traffic tickets and where we take that money and where, how much money we allocate to the state and things like that. That's all by statute. My hands are tied. I just make sure that we run as efficiently as possible and that we have people there that are serving our public. But it comes down to informing the voters and residents. But it's not easy. It's not an easy job. And little by little, we have to do it and make sure that it gets done. And then also just something on the legislative front, something that a lot of people don't understand is that our state legislative session is only 60 days. I mean,
which will be over here at the end of the week.
It'll be over at the end of the week. It's something that, I mean, I personally think that 90 days would be more adequate, but 60 days for a state the size of Florida is a very tight time frame. But that's my personal thought on the legislative
How are
process.
you able to use the relationships that you built there to help your office and the county?
Well, the great thing about that with relationships is I've been to Tallahassee this legislative session about 4 times. And each time I went, I would pop in and just keep those relationships active, right? Whether they're Democrat or Republican, I had a great relationship with just about everybody. And I always listened to people. I always respected their opinion. I always gave them a chance to speak. And it was ultimately about relationships. And now I feel like I'm definitely, thank God, reaping the rewards of that. Because I can go there, I can get meetings with people, I can speak to them. I was able to get an amendment on the clerk's bill, which will greatly benefit many of the counties, many of the county clerks, in the sense that we will be able to take these funds, the funds that we're holding for 90 days, and put them into interest-bearing accounts, which we could not do previously. And as you know, interest rates right now are incredibly high.
Right.
So that could help. Something else is that I have a pilot program that I was able to put in that same bill also, that I'm sure you've seen the lines at DMV down here in Miami-Dade County, right?
Need an appointment, need that, run out around the block. Yes.
Yeah. So in this pilot program, it's a 2-year pilot program, and it's going to give my office the ability to reinstate driver's licenses that are suspended for point suspensions, the 12 points in 12 months, 18 points in 18 months, and so on. So for that, and also for child support. And my office can reinstate those licenses. They won't have to go to the tax collector, to the DMV, to do that. And I estimate that's going to help about 15,000 to 17,000 residents in Miami-Dade County. So just little by little, chipping away at this, trying to help the residents and make sure that all these options and opportunities are there for them to make sure that they can help themselves.
You talked about that as being one of those things. Tell me about, I'm going to say, your dream or your laundry list when you walk in the office and go, man, I want to get those things done that would actually make a huge difference in terms of efficiency for residents. You've been at this since the summer. So now tell me what you foresee and what you'd love to have actually in place going forward.
Wow. We're working on a mobile unit right now. So my idea is to have 2 clerks in a vehicle, just going around the county, going to different locations, different city halls. I've spoken to several potential partners about this. The city of Miami Gardens, city of Hialeah, Hialeah Gardens, Florida City, Homestead, all these locations that are physically remote compared to their closest courthouse, anywhere that it may take 30 or 40 minutes to get to their closest branch courthouse. I want us to be able to set up camp remotely at any of these locations, coordinate with the city so that they get the word out to the residents, and offer our services, be able to pay parking tickets, traffic tickets, if they have a question regarding jury duty, anything like that. I want our clerks to be able to handle those matters. So that's on the short list right now, is working on the mobile unit, and I'm hoping that rolls out soon.
As of January 7th, 2025, this role, although technically it doesn't change, but in the real world it will change. Tell me about that additional responsibility and actually executing that as of the comptroller, so that residents, when they, through the course of the summer and the primary and then the general election, have an idea of this office and what it will actually do going forward.
So in addition to the services that we now provide, effective January 7th, 2025, the finance department for the county is going to come under our purview. That includes accounts receivable, accounts payable, bond issuances. What else? Those are the big 3. And Collections also. Collections for Jackson Hospital, believe it or not. They handle that. So it's a very interesting operation. In total, it's about 250 person department. And it's something that I'm trying to make this as seamless as possible. This is the largest county in the state of Florida. What myself and my deputy, my general counsel, we've coined this plug and play model. So we want to make this as seamless as possible. No interruptions. Basically, just that they take off the Miami-Dade County jersey off and they put on the Clerk of the Court and Comptroller jersey. Same benefits. The benefits won't be affected. Their salaries won't be affected. This is something that I just want to make sure that for the employee's sake and for our residents' sake, that everything goes smoothly. But it's basically managing the finances of the county, which is a huge responsibility when you're talking about an $11 billion budget. But again, going back to transparency and accountability as opposed to policy making, I have no say over how they're going to spend that money. That is something that is strictly up to the county commission and to the mayor. What I do have the ability is to provide transparency. And if you want to know how much money was spent on this project or on that project, I want to make sure that our system and our technology can provide that transparency so that any resident, anybody can find out where those funds are going.
So tell me what you do for fun. And in terms of our county, and I've had Annette Joseph on here, and Annette is one of my neighbors. And my wife is ultimate volunteer for Miami-Dade County Animal Services. Over there more than she's spent time with me. Tell me about the two cats, and that I'm sure Ms. Joseph will be delighted that you've aided our community in this fashion.
So we have two rescue cats. My wife and I have two rescue cats. These cats... So this is a very interesting story. We didn't get them at the animal shelter.
They're not out on the street.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we got a call. My parents own a rental property, and I would manage it before I ran for office. And the tenant called me up and goes, "Hey, Juan, there's something in the wall." I'm like, "Okay, what do you mean?" And he's like, "I think it's a cat. I think there's a cat stuck in the wall." I'm like, "All right, hold on a second. I could be there this evening." So I went by this evening. I knocked open about a dozen holes in the wall. And this is an older structure in Hialeah. So, I mean, this drywall was incredibly difficult to break through, but we managed to break through it. We find one little cat. This thing had to be about 3 weeks old. And then as I'm gathering my tools together and speaking to the tenant, I start to hear something else. And it dawns on me that there's another one. So I can't find it, and instead of breaking another 6 holes or a dozen holes, I take my camera and I start recording and going through, sticking my arm through the wall one of the holes, and then I replay the video and I see that there's another cat there. So we were able to do a very precise and tactical operation there to extract the other cat. And so we got both of them out, and they were literally, I mean, they could each fit on one hand. They were so small. The mother, so what I theorize is that the mother went into the attic, had them, since they could barely see, they were walking around and they fell down through the wall. I found the mother a week later. I set some traps and I took her to the county, and the county spayed her for free. And then as it was part of their spay and release operation. But it was something that we still have them now. They're about that was in 2017, so almost 7 years old now, and they're huge, like 20 pounds. Each one is about 22 pounds.
So they're been getting good, consistent meals
yes.
in Juan's household. We have less than a minute left. Big picture, what do you want our residents in Miami-Dade County to know about you and this responsibility that you have and the new challenges that will be facing them, so that they, in an educated fashion, can decide who they think should be in this particular office to serve them?
Yes, sir. Well, I have a background in economics, which fits in perfectly with the role of comptroller and handling the county's finances. In addition to that, I'm an attorney. that's fantastic when it comes to clerk of the courts, dealing with the judges and understanding the different processes and procedures. I'm a huge fan of technology. I want to make our lives simpler, not more complicated. And I think that there's a lot of things we can do when it comes to technology to ensure that. And most of all, I just want to make sure that our doors are open to everybody, and that they can access our systems in a free and easy manner, and that is easy for them to navigate. So it's something that I think that the government needs to make sure that they're serving the community, and that they're aware of all the opportunities and ways that they can help themselves to find the information that they're looking for.
Juan, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Who's your football team?
The Dolphins.
Okay, there we go. Let's see how we're going to do. Okay, always great to have you on In the Know, and now you know a lot more about what the clerk and the comptroller does, and we really appreciate Juan spending time with us today. We'll see you soon.